is a very special program. We are super excited to have two guests with us this evening for our Forging America program. This is Chuck Childers. He is the head miller at the old mill here in Pigeon Forge. He's not been there since 1830, but close. No, 17 years. 17
Feels
years.
that way.
Feels that way. He just looks like, I won't tell him that.
Thank you, Don.
You're welcome.
And then this is Don Huskey, very special guest. This is Marsha's dad. And he was also at the mill for a couple of 20-something years, 30?
Yeah, well, about 30 altogether, I guess.
Yeah, and he did this. If y'all ever went to the mill and saw the guy out front corn frying cornbread, well, this was him. So that's why it's so good. And so Chuck is going to talk to us a little bit of the history of the mill, about history in general, and just the daily operations of a mill. And they were a very important part of small communities all over. They had multi-function uses. Ours was a post office. When we got electricity, it did electricity. They were at bandages for the war up there. It was an iron. I mean, just go on. It's had a lot of incarnations over the years. And then we've all had a little sample of cornbread. So we're just going to turn it over here to Mr. Chuck here and let him get started.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight. One of the things that always has fascinated me is history. So the fact that I get to work in a building that was built in 1830 and is still functioning today is just really cool. So I kind of have two jobs. My first job is I am running a business. The old mill is a working mill. And what I mean by that is we're making product every day for both our restaurants. We have stores, we have wholesalers that we provide our product to. So it is a business. So I have that aspect of it. Then the other hat is the historical side of it, the community side of it. Working at the mill has caused me to look at rivers in an entirely different way. Every time I'm traveling now, if I'm passing over some water somewhere, I'm thinking, is this a year-round supply of water? And if it was, where was the mill? Because if it was a year-round supply of water, there was a mill on it, maybe several, so it's got me thinking about that. But our little mill, we've been here since 1830, and she mentioned several of the things that we've done there. Of course, first, does everybody know the history of Pigeon Forge, where it got its name? Is everybody familiar with that? Okay, so those of you who might not be, the first thing on that site was the iron forge. So they had the iron forge going right there, pretty much where the general store is now, part of the mill. So the man's son, built the iron forge, his son turned around and built the mill. So they had the iron forge going, then they had the mill going. So a few years later, he goes ahead and he opens up the first post office. So if you open the first post office, you get to name the place. So he was thinking, well, my dad's forge, and of course back in those days, they had the passenger pigeons. They used to come through this area by the hundreds of thousands and nest in the trees. He put the two names together, Pigeon Forge, and here we are all this time later. The name stuck. So we also had a sawmill there at one point. We generated electricity for Pigeon Forge for about 8 or 9 years. That was your source of electricity. Up on the third floor, they had an infirmary for wounded soldiers during the Civil War. Now, if you've ever been in the mill, you realize that we don't have any heat or air. And if you were up on the third floor, if you were sick or injured, you were not having a good day. It's just, we don't go up there unless we have to in the summer. It was really hot and really humid. On the second floor during the same period, they had these big clothing looms set up where they made cloth for Union uniforms. This was kind of a Union stronghold area. Now, the rumor is, and of course we can't prove this, but one of the first things you do in war is get rid of the other person's supplies. But the mill is still here, so we think they probably did some things for both sides, and everybody knew everybody, so it was wink, wink, and here's the mill still. But what I'm going to try to do is show you a little bit of what I do day to day, how the mill operates, and exactly what we're doing. That door that you see right there, get out of the way so you can see it a little better. That's the original door from 1830. And you'll notice all the nails and all the holes on it. Well, that's also called the gathering place. When you brought your grains to be ground, you have a period of time to wait. Well, they're going to post notices up there. You collect your mail, something for sale. Maybe somebody passed, maybe somebody's getting married. So all this information is right here, and you would share this information with each other. That was our internet of the day. Of course, our day starts really early. We're there before sunrise. One of the cool things I like about working at the mill is when you get there that early, it's peaceful and it's quiet. And some of the things you get to see in the morning is just really kind of cool. I get beautiful sunrises. I'm able to get some pictures of them and just enjoy it. Some mornings the sunrises are great. Sometimes really orange. And sometimes we'll have fog rolling in over the mountains or maybe rolling down the river. It's just peaceful, quiet time before everything gets wound up. But now if you're a miller, one of the first things you're going to do in the day to get your day started properly is start with your coffee. Coffee is a lifesaver, I'm telling you. Coffee has probably saved more lives than anything else. Without coffee, I know a lot of people who would be not here probably. Start with our coffee, then we're going to get going. Those bags you see there, we have 2 different size bags for the retail side, 2 and 5 pound bags. We currently have 43 different products that we package in the mill for the retail and wholesale side of it. 43 items. If you've passed by the mill, you know it's not a very big mill. It's really kind of small. So the 43 items that we have, we still make, actually, and by make I mean grind, mix, and put in the bags, 15 items. I've been there 17 and a half years now. When I first started, we had 25 items that we had to mix and make and package. Now the difference is because of certain types of allergic reactions to wheat, we've had to stop grinding and making a lot of whole wheat. The finished wheat products like your all-purpose flour and your self-rising flour, we can't do those on site anymore because of cross-contamination. So we do those off-site and bring them back in. This is why we only have 15 items that we actually manufacture inside the mill. All of our corn-based items are still done in there. Now, we still do grind a little bit of whole wheat, just the whole wheat though, not the finished flour, and there is a difference in the two. That's the old flour mill. It ran up until the late 50s. This equipment was made by a company in Knoxville called Savage and Taylor. 2 guys got together. They made some mining equipment, some farming equipment, and a lot of milling equipment. But what happened was they made this stuff so good that once they saturated the area, they basically put themselves out of business. So over the years, they had to try to adjust. This equipment we don't use anymore because of the cross-contamination, but it would still work today. I've been to modern mills and the process is still the same. It's 3 steps. The first step, you grind the wheat just a little bit, you crack it, you send it up to a sifter, sift it, bring it back down. Then you grind it again, back up to the sifter, you sift it again, back down, and then you grind it one more time. It goes to its final sifting, and the finer you sift that flour, the better flour it's going to be. So they had some very good flour. Now the modern mill, it can do 100,000 pounds in an hour. They probably couldn't do that in a year. That would have been a lot for them to do back in those days. Now what I'm going to show you now is the stones. We have water-powered stones, our main stones. This is what we do the majority of our grinding on. I'm going to go forward and then come back. This is a picture of the stones taken apart. Now a mill is a very dangerous place to work. It was very common for millers to be missing a digit, missing a finger, missing a hand, in some cases missing an arm. In fact, we have a relatively new fire inspector here in Pigeon Forge. He visited me last summer for the first time. I hadn't seen this guy before. And he was walking around the mill and he was looking at all of our equipment and all of our belts moving, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. And he had something on his mind. I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Well, I have a question." I said, "Go ahead." He goes, "What happens if somebody gets something stuck in a belt?" I kind of smiled and said, "They lose it." He goes, "What do you mean they lose it?" I said, "It's gone. There's nothing I can do. If you get something caught in a belt, it's going to take that finger off. It's going to take that arm off. There's nothing I can do. It takes 5 minutes to shut this equipment down, minimum." So he's like, "That doesn't sound safe." I said, "No, it's not. But I have a tourniquet and I have your number on speed dial. So it's all good." He didn't think it was that funny. I think he was like, "What? What? What?" But this stone is the top stone on our set. These stones weigh over 2,000 pounds apiece. This particular stone would be called the runner stone because it's the one that sits on top. It's the one that actually spins. Now, right now we have them apart because we were doing what's called dressing, or cleaning and sharpening the stones. So what we have to do is, you can see this little arm over here, it's kind of reddish color, and at the very top you can see what looks like a little corkscrew thing. That little corkscrew goes down. We have 2 iron bars that go over the stone. We have to crank this thing up. We swing it over, then we have to spin it so that the flat side is up. Now that's one of the more dangerous things we do when we're flipping that stone. You only have a couple inches between the bar and the stone, and it's not evenly balanced. So when you're flipping that, if it were to come off, your finger or foot is in the way, you're going to have a bad day. So you have to be very, very careful when we're doing this. This is the bottom stone, or what's called the bed stone. Now that one just sits there. It doesn't move at all. That's why it's called the bed stone. But you'll notice in the middle of it, there's a little device there. What that is, it's like a pivot point. And that top stone sits down on top of that and balances. That's where it balances, and then it spins it and runs it. Well, when you're sitting that top stone back down on that bottom stone, sometimes it wants to knock that piece off, and you have to reach up under there and kind of hold it in place while the other guys kind of try to line it up and lower it so it's going to catch, then you get your hand out of the way. That's the plan. So far, all my crew has all their digits. I'm happy to say we haven't lost any fingers in 17 and a half years. Maintenance is one of those things. If you were here this day, that's me fixing a belt, you would have probably heard things. Now, I can't help it. Sometimes I kick stuff. Usually that belt breaks at the worst possible time, but this is a very common thing for us to have to replace the belts or repair the belts. Well, they'll stretch and you have to cut them, you have to reattach them. If you don't do that, what happens is the belt keeps slipping off and you don't get anywhere with it. So here we are underneath the mill, stretching that belt back out, cutting it and replacing it. And if you see me doing that, I'm not having a nice day. There I am again. This time I'm out there on the water wheel. Now you've seen the water wheel. So here's what I got to do. You start over there on that side. You have to walk through, keeping your balance. Come out the other side, walk out to the support, turn around, sit down, grease the bearing, and then repeat the process to get out, all while not falling into the river and getting wet. I've not fallen yet, so I'm happy about that. But we're getting ready to have to do this again. But this is one of those things that doesn't have to be done that often. About once every 2 years, we'll go out and grease those bearings. But it's very important that we do. If those bearings were to burn out, we would have to literally bring a crane in to lift that wheel up to replace those bearings. Weather is a very, very important thing around the mill. Here I have a picture of me standing in the middle of the river with absolutely no water coming over the dam. Guess what year this was? Yeah, that's what year that was a lot that year. When the water gets too low, I can't run. Too much rain is a problem for us as well. I get too much rain. I have a similar problem, only too much water. Here you see the water running underneath the mill, and you'll notice it's right up to the building almost. This is where it really starts to get dangerous, because once that water gets up underneath that, it'll start to lift and push at the same time. Usually by the time we're at this point, the mill has already ceased operations, but the general store would still be open. At this point, we empty the building, because now we're at a spot where we don't know what's going to happen. That river can rise and lower really, really fast, and we're not going to take any chances. Excuse me, fortunately for us, that day, that's as high as it got. It started going down after that. Here's a unique picture. A lot of people don't get to see this. If you look to where the water wheel is, if you look real close underneath the water wheel, you can see the water's rushing. I know it's kind of hard to see from back there. That's coming from what we call the sluice gate. I have two gates. I have a gate that opens the penstock that powers the wheel, powers the stones. Then I have a sluice gate that lets the water escape from the river. I can drain the river. So the purpose of that is if I need to work on this, I can divert the river. We can come out here and do whatever work we need to do, fix whatever needs to be fixed, and then I can shut that sluice gate and it'll once again fill back up. Now a cool thing, I get a little power hungry with this. When I shut that gate right now, it's going to take 3 or 4 hours minimum before that water starts going back over the dam. So in the meantime, everybody downstream is wondering what's happened to their water. And I'm sitting here going, I stopped your water. Yeah. But that's kind of a cool thing. It's not something you see every day, and we don't do it every day. I have a excerpt from a man who ran a mill up in upper state New York back in the late 1800s. He was talking about this kind of situation. He goes, but the good part was I was able to find the tools that I lost last summer. He lost a hammer and some things. I've got sockets, and I got a wedding ring down there somewhere too, somewhere. So if you find a gold ring around the mill, it belongs to me. Please return it. Thank you very much.
Somebody found one in a bag of cornmeal one time too, I think.
Did you lose one in a corner? Boy, somebody really hit the jackpot with that batch. We use our product at the old mill that we make in both our restaurants, in our bakery. We also have wholesalers that we supply. The National Park has 2 mills, Cades Cove and one called Mingus Mill on the way to Cherokee. They sell cornmeal in those mills. That's our cornmeal. We repackage it for them and supply it to them. But here you can see baking bread with it. And we also do stuff like making cookies and brownies. And this is the hard part of my job coming up. We supply all this stuff to all of our different people in the square. And I'm all about quality control. Even with Don making that stuff, it's my responsibility to ensure that what you guys are getting is top-notch quality. So I have to test this stuff repeatedly and make sure that it's correct. But not only do I have to test, the flour and the cornmeal stuff, I have to test the liquid stuff as well because we supply stuff for them as well. So yes, it's a very difficult job, but somebody has to do it, and this product passed the Miller's test. So this is good to go. Getting there so early in the morning, I mentioned earlier, I get to see some unique things. It's so peaceful and quiet. When we get a snowfall that's starting down, it's just so peaceful and quiet. It's like its own little world. And I'll take some pictures sometimes of things that are going on because it's just neat. Here's an early morning picture when it's snowing. And there's another picture. Now, I mentioned weather on us. The old mill itself is not heated at all, and it's not air conditioned. In the winter, it gets brutally cold inside the mill. And I want you to remember that because I'm going to come back to that here in a little bit. But I've been in there at 12 degrees inside the building. Now, when it gets that cold, we really can't work. Everything we do is by touch, by feel. So we can't wear gloves. When we're feeling this cornmeal and we're trying to grind this, it's all by touch and feel. So when it's colder, it feels different, right? The stones are cold. They grind different. The grains are cold. They grind different. All those bags that you saw, we have to stamp them and put stickers on them. That doesn't want to work when it's this cold. So there are days where we just have to call it quits and go to the house. When I see the river frozen over like this, while it's pretty, it's not pretty inside the mill. For the river to get frozen over like this, it's been cold for a period of time. So it's making our life kind of miserable inside, but it makes for a beautiful picture. Picture of the restaurant across the river. You might not be able to see it, but there's a bunch of rocks on the river. Yeah, does anybody have this problem? Because this is a me thing, I think. I think I'm 20 still. I'm not, but my brain thinks I'm 20. So I see the river frozen over like this, and I'm thinking, I can walk out there on that. But at least I had the common sense to throw some rocks out there first to see if it's going to hold. But then there's that other part of my brain that says, yeah, go ahead, walk out there. Hope you enjoy swimming. But again, a beautiful picture. And for the record, I've never fallen through. One of the things we really look forward to is spring and summer when it first comes out, when it first starts to get warm. We've been in this cold mill all year long. It's been cold, it's been miserable. And we just want to get to the warm weather. And we see the first blooms popping out. It just makes us smile. A unique picture of the water wheel. Gives you a good picture of the penstock. Now, what's the penstock? That area right behind the water wheel. Just picture a big concrete box. And at the bottom of that concrete box, there's what's called a turbine. Sits in the bottom of that box. So what I do is I fill that box up with water, and then I open a little gate, and the water pushes down on that turbine and makes it spin. And when it spins, it makes a shaft turn, which pulls a pulley, which makes the belt turn, which grinds my cornmeal for me. And in this case, it'll send grain up to the 3rd floor for us as well. Just another unique angle of that. If you saw a picture of the mill, Don, when did they bring the water wheel back? Was it mid-70s? Somewhere in the mid-70s they brought the water wheel back?
I'm not sure. I used to sit out there and fish back in the early 50s, late 40s. And they'd have the mill running in there, but the big wheel wasn't up.
Big wheel wasn't up.
At that time.
They didn't have to have the wheel for a while because the water turbine powers the stones. So when they brought the water wheel back, it had to have a job, so we use it to move the grain around. But as you can see, about halfway, there's a little box, if you will, that's shooting the water at the water wheel. That's called a midriff. What they did is, since they got this box that's full of water, they just cut a hole in that box, put this little flume around and brought it around to the front of the water wheel so that it would spin. Now, originally, When the mill was first opened, none of that would have been there. That water wheel would have been up against the side of the building, and they would have had this water chute about 200 yards down the river to where the dam used to be, which is about 200 yards up from where it is now. So the dam itself has even been moved. This is me after one of those days where I'm contemplating my life's choices. I'm thinking I could have been a doctor, maybe, an astronaut, perhaps. You know, I got my coffee, though, so it's all good. So after a day like that, when things are broken and I'm contemplating life's choices, I have something that I always look forward to. And it comes from the distillery. Now, after you've had a day like that and you've done this, then it's also time for that. Now, my boss accused me one time of having a hammock hidden somewhere in the mill. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. But it's up on the 3rd floor for further reference. But we do have to shake it out and make sure there are no spiders in it. So we have to make sure of that. That's the last picture I've got. So any questions so far of anything that I've gone over? That you see? Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a reason why it's not no heat and air conditioner?
That's a good question. Now, the old mill is on the National Registry of Historic Places. So we are kind of limited to what we can do as far as modifications go. So in the winter, we don't have any heat. In the summer, we don't have any cooling. As you can imagine, being raised up by the river, it gets incredibly hot and humid in the mill. It's one of the challenges that we have. I often wonder how they did it day in and day out back in the day, because it's a job for the young folks. It really is. Most of my crew, I've got a younger guy now, but most of my crew is 40 and over. And it's a young man's job. It wears on you after a while. We're constantly moving 50 and 25-pound bags all day long. It's amazing the amount of product. In fact, I'm going to give you some numbers. We're going to grind roughly 200,000 pounds of corn every year. Now, to big mills, that's not a lot. For a little mill like us, that's a lot. That's a lot of corn for us to grind. And we do it in both colors, white and yellow. And yes, I've had people ask me, what's the difference between white and yellow? And I smile and say, color. But there is another difference. The yellow corn does have a slightly stronger corn taste. Don, for some reason, hates yellow. I can't get him to make yellow in there. He refuses to because your dad's hard-headed.
I love yellow corn on the cob, not my cornbread.
That's your cornbread, right? Yeah. So we do it in 2 colors. So every Friday afternoon at the end of the week, we're stocking up our product, everything in both white and yellow, and it's ready for the weekend. So Monday mornings when we come in, I know who's been in town. If more yellow corn products have been sold, Yankees have been in town. Sorry, I'm from West Virginia. Grandma used yellow. And I'm going to say something sacrilegious here according to some. She put some sugar in it too. She did. She put a little sugar in it. If you're from the South, the white, that's what's gone. If you're from the Midwest, they kind of go both ways. So it's hard to tell with those folks. They can go either way with it. But that's how we know who's been in town. Sometimes we come in, everything's gone, so it doesn't matter. Another unique thing about the mill, from the end of September to the end of the year, that last quarter, we're going to do almost half of all of our business just in those 3.5 months. We call it the crazy time. It's just wild how much stuff we're grinding. Everything's going constantly bringing stuff in, constantly taking stuff out. It's just nonstop. So we'll get our folks from our marketing department that'll come over smiling, like, Chuck, we need some. I'm like, no, come and see me in January. September, October, November, December is not the time to say I need something special because we're busy. Everybody in the square is busy. Keep that in mind because I'm going to come back to that in just a second. Now I'm going to show you the process here. Of course, we're going to start out with just whole corn, right? That's how it comes in. And for us, it comes in 50-pound bags, and we get it by the pallet load. Now, we have a warehouse on our property, so we'll pick up a pallet, bring it over to the mill, and then we'll load it by hand into the mill. And then we have to dump it by hand, and then we'll continue on. So the first thing we're going to grind is regular cornmeal. So we'll grind it. I like to go for what I call like a medium grind. Now, keep in mind, my equipment is really old. I'm really old. My field isn't what it used to be either. So some days it's going to be a little finer. Other days it's going to be a little coarser. The weather has a lot to do with this as well. What's the weather doing today? Is it wet out? The humidity has a lot to do with it. But all those things factor in to this cornmeal that we grind. That's one of the things that makes our cornmeal unique. You don't go in, put on a lab coat, turn the lights on, press a button, and out comes the product. It's unique. It's different. And that's why it's so special and why it's so good. Well, the next thing is somebody have a question? I'm sorry. Okay. One of the next things we're going to make is called grits. So what is a grit? A grit is basically the heart of the corn. We're going to take the cornmeal and we're going to grind it very coarse. And then we're going to send that cornmeal up to a sifter. And it's going to sift away the corn flour. And it's going to sift away the bran. And then what's left is grit. Now, our grit machine is temperamental. It's been up there a little while. Some days it runs perfectly. Some days it doesn't run so good at all. If I run 1,000 pounds of corn, I'll be doing really, really good to get 400 pounds of grits. 450 on a good day. So you see, I'm losing a lot of it. What I'm losing some of it as is corn flour, which is a great supplement if you have a problem with wheat. You can use corn flour. There's no gluten in it. So we'll recycle some of this. We'll use it in some of our mixes and package it up as corn flour as well. And the rest is bran. And what we don't use, we actually have a farmer who gets it and uses it for whatever he uses it for. Feeding his animals, I guess. We do a little bit of wheat. The whole wheat looks like this. Right now we're using soft white. That's what we're using right now. Sometimes it's soft red, depending on what I can get. When we grind it into corn flour, into wheat flour, that's what it's going to look like. And a lot of you, I can tell, have used real wheat flour. It's very good for making breads. We also use make a product called cracked wheat. This isn't so much something that you actually bake with. This is what you'll kind of put on top of your loaves of bread to give it that final touch. Maybe sprinkle just a little bit in the dough. You won't use a lot of this by itself because it won't rise real well. You use it in conjunction with your whole wheat. And of course, the final product that we do make is this one here. Yeah, that's the good stuff right there. Does anybody have any questions so far? Anything? Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between corn flour and corn starch?
Corn starch, it's really similar. It's really similar.
Interchangeable.
I say yes. Some people will tell you no. I say yes. I've used it both ways. Basically what you're doing, you're taking all the big stuff out and it's really fine ground is what it is. A lot of the cornmeal that you buy in the grocery store is more like corn flour. It's ground really, really fine and you get more of a cake-like texture with it. This is why ours is a little bit different because it's going to be a little more coarse, not a lot coarse. I don't like it real coarse, but it gives you that texture. If you feel your cornmeal and you have a little texture to it, that's what you're looking for. I'm looking for that cross between a texture and a little smoothness in it. And I tell my guys when we're grinding it, take some of it and squeeze your hand with it. And then you make like a little lump. If you can shake that lump, shake your hand and shake that lump and it falls apart, that's where you're at. That's what you want. If you shake it, if you squeeze it and then you shake it, it doesn't fall apart, it's too fine. So you need to make some adjustments to your stones. On the other hand, if you try to squeeze it and it doesn't squeeze together at all, and now you're too coarse. Our equipment's old and it's very fickle. So it's very common for us to have to make adjustments constantly to the equipment. I can get my grits going perfectly. I can come back 10 minutes later and maybe they're too coarse now. If they're too big, that means I'm losing a lot more upstairs in the sifter. So we got to make adjustments. And it takes 5 to 10 minutes for these adjustments to work their way through the system and get down to where you want it. So you have to constantly watch it. You can start with a cool morning. So you start grinding in the morning, it's cooler. Well, by 10 o'clock, it's heated up. So everything's changed. The humidity's changed, the temperature's changed, how it's grinding has changed. So we have to watch that and constantly stay in touch with it on what's going on. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Technical question. I'm trying to imagine where you put the corn in, how much, how did it get done?
Okay.
You know, just
Let me see if I can show you better in this picture. You have to imagine that other stone being on top of this one. okay? So when we look at the other one, there's a hole in the middle of it. So the corn falls down into the middle of that hole. And then here on the front, right down here at the bottom, there's a little chute. So as the corn falls into the middle, that top stone is spinning, it grinds it, and then it shoots it out this chute right here. So that's where it comes out. Now I make my adjustments several different ways. I can control how fast that stone spins. I can control the distance between the two stones, okay? And I can control how fast the corn drops into the stones. Those are the three ways that I control it. Some days all three of those systems work really well. Other days, one's not working as good as the other, so you have to work around it and figure out which way's working best. So if I'm making cornmeal, that's what happens. It'll come out this chute right here. If I'm doing grits, I have basically what looks like a big vacuum. I put a tube on it, and as it's coming out that chute, it sucks it up, takes it up to the second floor where the sifter is. It'll sift it, then bring it back down by gravity into the barrel as finished grits. So it's a process too. All these things have to work right together for it to work at all. Anybody else? Question? Yes, sir.
The white corn, is it dent corn?
It is. They're both dent corn. They are. A lot of mills use the dent corn. It's easier to grind. I failed to mention this. I'm glad you said that. We grind popcorn also. Now, if you've seen popcorn, you know, there's smaller kernels. Popcorn is the hardest thing that I grind. It burns my stones up over a period of time because it's just such a hard grain to grind. Now, the other thing about the popcorn is I cannot grind it on my big stones. I have to grind it on my vertical stones, which are electric, my backup stones. The RPM is faster on those, and it drops straight through. I've tried to grind it on this, and what happens is popcorn has moisture in it. That's what makes it pop. So the first 5 minutes, it comes out good. After that, I start getting dough. And then I have to take this thing apart, and if you're sitting on the front porch, you're hearing things get kicked and shoved and knocked around. That's me, because now I got to take everything apart and put it all back together again because we tried to grind popcorn, and we shouldn't have. But sometimes we will do stuff like that. Anybody else? Another question before I move on? Okay. What I want to do is I want to pass these around. These are, oh, you can get them? Recipe cards. And if we need more, I got more here.
You suggest using the old mill flour, correct?
Oh, so, let me think about that for a minute. Don, what do you think?
I've got a question. Anybody in here read the book of the Southern Highlands, Horse Camp Art? Yes? You ought to get it and read it. I've read it twice and probably read it again one of these days. I don't know, but you can sure find out how the old people lived back in those days. They ate a lot of cornbread back then too.
Yes, they did.
Can you make polenta with this? Can you make polenta with this?
Polenta. What is that's going to sound bad? What's polenta?
Oh, it's Italian. It's like
Cornmeal.
how would you describe?
If it's made out of corn, yeah.
She lives in Sicily, that's what she's asking.
Oh, okay. I would think so. I would think so. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. A little story about the electricity. You know, we generate electricity for Pigeon Forge for about 8 or 9 years, and we've often puzzled our heads about how they work this out exactly because it would have to be spinning. The stones would have to be spinning, which would spin the turbine that was spinning the thing that made the electricity. Whatever it was in the mill spinning, right? So we're like, they weren't here overnight. They weren't going to spend the night in this place. So what did they do? So our solution was what they probably did was about 5 o'clock. They flicked the power a couple times. Hey, you guys got 5 minutes and we're shutting everything down. So if you got something in the oven, you better get it out. That's the best we could come up with. So it's one of those things that we were always kind of kicking around in our head. Now, if you visit the old mill, if you look out at the porch, the front porch, you're going to see 2 sets of stones sitting out there. One's right in front of the mill. That's a decorative set. This was added later on. He would probably know more about that part. But over in front of the general store, there's another set of stones, which is the first set of stones that was in the mill. The set of stones that we're using now is only the second set that we've used. So they've been there a long time. If you take care of them, one of my biggest fears is seeing cracks or anything like that appear in my stone, so that would be really bad. It's a flint.
What would you do then? I mean, where do you...
No, start looking for work? No, if it depends on what's going on with it. If it's just a little crack, you can get away with it. Sometimes you can drill holes and stop it. We have a metal band around it that helps keep it together, to keep it from doing that. But you have to watch what you're grinding. So if I'm grinding my grains, right, it's flint and granite. If I'm grinding, say, corn, and it's grinding away and it runs out of corn, those stones start clacking. And not only that, they start smelling a little bit. They get that flint smell. Now, a mill's a dangerous place to work. I've mentioned that. One of the big dangers of it is the dust. So you have to be very careful with the dust. If you got a lot of dust in the air and now your flint granite stones are starting to clack together and make sparks, you've got a problem. We had a small flare-up many years ago with our vertical stones. They run at a higher RPM. And it was in the winter, and the dust from the wheat was just hovering around there, and they clanked and went, and I was like, yeah, that's what I said. Ooh, okay. But we always keep windows open, even in the winter. We keep fans going, even in the winter, for that reason. You've heard of the grain silo explosions. That's what's happened. The dust is built up, something sparked, and it went boom.
But what about, at some point, are you going to have to replace these stones?
Hopefully not in my lifetime. In theory, they'll last a long time if you take care of them. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Those grooves, do you have to periodically file them?
Yeah, that's what they're getting ready to do here. Now, I took a course on this, on how to do it. I know the technical part of how to do it, but we bring an expert in to do it, and they'll do it for us. But what the first thing they have to do is they have to level the stones. Because over time, one side might wear more than the other, and that's not good. So what they have to do is they have to level it out, and then they'll re-groove it. We call it sharpening, but it's dressing is the technical term of those stones. Both sides are done. They'll do the downside and the upside as well. That's why we have to flip that stone over as well, so they can get to those grooves that are on that side. And the grooves have to be cut the same way. If you mess up and you groove them the wrong way, then you got two grooves going against each other, and that's not going to work at all. Another thing about the stone dressing is back in the old days, you've heard the expression, show me your metal. You know, it's kind of a common expression. They use that for guys who were dressing stones. These are flint and granite, so if you did this and you were good at it over a period of time, you're going to start getting little bits of shards in your wrists and in your forearms where you've done this for so long. So if I've spent a lot of money bringing my stones in, and I'm 300 miles from the nearest any place, and you're coming to dress my stones, I need to know that you know what they're doing. Now, back in those days, they would have had apprentice systems for carpentry, for blacksmithing, for milling. You worked under somebody for a period of time. They didn't just cut you out there to do this. A lot of money involved, and it was really hard to get replacements. Yes, ma'am. Oh, he had, okay. Okay, any other questions right now? Yes, ma'am.
So on this stone, below is beige, and then up at the top is the gray. Is it two stones put together?
No, ma'am. That's a band down there on the bottom.
Oh, that's a band.
Yeah. And the lighting in the mill is not great. So some of that is lighting as well.
Okay.
Now, the area that we wear and use every day, it does have a slight tint difference, but it's the same stone.
How much does that stone weigh?
A little over 2,000 pounds. If it were to fall off the braces when we're lifting it up, it's not going to stop till it hits the ground underneath the mill. And if your foot happens to be in the way, your foot's going with it. Anybody else? Any questions?
This is happening on the first floor.
Yes, ma'am.
What's-
Yes, ma'am. What I call all the excitement happens on the first floor. The good stuff. Again, you can see that the mill is not really that big, so the amount of product that we do and generate is really amazing. Now, I told you we fill up those bags every year. We 2-pound to 5-pound bags for the retail side, plus our wholesalers. We're going to do almost 100,000 of those bags every year. So the first thing we have to do, of course, is make the bags, which means we have to dress the bags, stamp the bags, label the bags, and then we can fill the bags and put them out to be sold. So about 100,000 of those. That doesn't include the larger bags, the 25-pound bags that we send to the restaurants. Both our restaurants use an incredible amount of our product. So that keeps us very, very busy just hauling stuff sometimes. It's interesting. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
How many employees does it take to get this done?
Okay, that's a good question. For many years, it was me, one other guy, and a part-time person. We were understaffed for quite a while, yeah. And it wears on you after a while. Right now, I am what I call fully staffed. I have 3 people that work underneath me, 3 full-time people. Yes, ma'am.
How does the process that you use now differ from what would have been done in the early 1800s?
Early 1800s, what's different? One of the things that's different, if you look at the front of the mill, if you're ever at the mill, going to the old mill restaurant, look at the front of the mill, you see how it goes like this. There's a little gable there. If you look up in there real close, you're going to see a little hole. Up on top of that hole, there's a pulley. When the mill was first built, that porch was not there. When you brought your grain, you pulled right up, and they would have lowered a platform by that pulley. They would have loaded your grain on that and pulled it up to whichever floor they needed to go to. So about 1850-something, I think, they got installed what's called grain elevators. Now, what grain elevators do, you can dump your grain into basically a big bucket, and this bucket will be picked up by smaller buckets through a tube system, and it'll take it to various places in the mill for you. So that's one thing that greatly helped the millers. Not having to lug those, and they would have been 80-pound to 100-pound bags back in the day. Mine are only 50 pounds, but they would have been dealing with 80-plus pounds in and out. Plus, they would have also been dealing with corn that wasn't shucked yet. They would have had to do some shucking themselves there with equipment they had set up. Then they would have had to clean the corn. So you could bring stuff in. You may not be ready for a week. You may have to drop it off and come back later on and pick it up, depending on what the situation was. Yes, ma'am.
So what state do you have your products in?
Nationwide. Nationwide. Technically, we ship worldwide, but I don't know that we've shipped anything overseas recently. But we have a mail order business. It's online. We'll ship it anywhere. Yep, absolutely. The only thing we can't ship is the moonshine. Government regulations.
Who supplies your, like, where do you?
We have a supplier called Beatty Farms. They're south of Nashville, so it is a local source. Many, many years ago, we had to get it elsewhere, but we finally found the key is a reliable source. And I have a couple horror stories about local corn that didn't work out so well. If I get a batch of bad corn and it has bugs in it, it's a nightmare because it will get into all the equipment, and then I've got a problem because now I've got to stop milling and over a period of days sometimes clean this equipment out to try to get rid of all these bugs. So that's a problem. So you want a supplier who's got reliable corn, that you know it's clean corn, and they're taking care of their crop. That way you won't get your equipment infested, because once it gets infested, it is a problem for me. But it is a local source, and he's good. And he provides my wheat as well now at this point.
Do you add anything to your final product that would not have been added in the 1850s?
Yes. Our corn is 100% corn. Everything I put corn in, my corn meals are 100% corn. The only thing I add to that is a leavening agent. Okay, so if you get self-rising, you get salt, a product called V90, and sodium bicarbonate. Those 3 things together are a leavening agent. That's what makes my self-rising. If you get the jalapeno, it's got those 3 plus the jalapeno. That's it. My whole wheat is whole wheat. Everything we grind, we're not taking anything out. And that's a great question, because I have people say, what's going on with the grains? If you're trying to buy something that's supposed to be 100%, if it says enriched or enhanced, it should start sitting alone. You got to ask, why is it enriched? Why is it enhanced? What are they doing to it? It shouldn't be. It should be 100% corn, period. That should be what it is.
What I was getting at.
Yes, yes.
Y'all don't have preservatives or anything.
No. Now, some of the products I bring in now, like my finished flours, they're manufactured off-site, and yes, some of them are bromided and various things.
But your stuff, like, people have to put it in the fridge.
Yeah. In fact, that's a good point too. Many years ago, I saw a customer. They were buying 5 or 6 bags of cornmeal, and it was the middle of July, and they put them in their trunk. And I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute!" I go, "Are you folks leaving today?" "No, we're going to be here till Friday." It must have been Monday or Tuesday. I said, "Please take these up to your room. If you leave this product out in the heat, you're going to get bugs in it." Okay, let me say that again, because some people don't understand. Grains have bugs in them. I don't care where you get it from. It does. You have to care for it. You have to treat it properly. Keep it cool. You can put it in a refrigerator, keep it dry, keep the air off of it. It'll last virtually forever if you do that. I've used cornmeal in my house that was a year and a half old in the cabinet.
What did people do then back in the day before refrigeration?
Pick the bugs out. And we don't charge. If you get that, it's free. I'm not charging you for that. No, it's, some people go, but the truth is, all grains like that are gonna, in fact, your fruits and vegetables you get, unless they've absolutely sprayed the tar out of them, are gonna have issues like that. So it's not a big deal. In fact, back in the day, they would have cats running around in the mill. We don't have cat. If I had a cat in my mill and my inspector comes, he'd have a conniption. He would. But they used to. And in fact, that man I was telling you about that ran that mill that lost his tools, he also put a little note in his diary that his cat lost its front forepaw in one of his gears. Well, if you have cats around, you better make sure where they're at before you start your stuff up because he lost his forearm. This was a special guy, this guy was. He was a pretty good miller, evidently. Any other questions there?
No, but my grandmother, I never saw my grandmother make bread without sifting. They always used a sifter.
Sifter. Sifting makes fine flour. And the key to good flour is the sifting. It always has been. A lot of people have forgotten that. In fact, I told you this before we started, so I'm going to share this with you. I had a young couple standing out on the porch. They had bought some of our cornmeal, some of the self-rising, and they didn't like it. Okay, you didn't like it. I buy stuff, I try it, I don't like it. That happens. But they were in their mid-20s, so I said, okay, what didn't you like about it? And they said, well, it had a funny texture to it, and it had just a funny taste to it. I said, okay, have you had cornbread before? Well, yeah. Well, what'd you use? Jiffy Mix? Now, I didn't make fun of them, but it sent a light off inside my head that we have a generational issue. We have a whole generation of people who have not grown up with this kind of stuff. They don't understand it. They've never used it. My grandmother did. She was a cook on a riverboat when she was young. So she had to learn how to cook well for those men on the boat. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to share one more thing with you real quick then, since we have a few more minutes. Do we? Okay. I told you that it gets really, really, really cold in the mill. And by the time spring runs around, we are so happy for this warmer weather. And I also told you that the last quarter of our year is insanely busy. Well, many, many, many years ago, us managers, we get crabby. I know, I got a sunny disposition. It's hard to believe that I get crabby. I understand that. But I do, and all the other managers do too. So I started writing these little ditties, and I would send off one every December to the managers just to make everybody laugh. And it got to the point where everybody was expecting it. So I had to start doing it now. Now I have to think about it because now I got to do it because everybody's expecting it. But that morphed into another project of mine where I put together a bunch of poems that I wrote. And the title of the book is Dancing Naked Through the Square. Now remember, I told you it's cold, right? So when that first rays of warm sunshine come out and the first blooms are starting to bust out and the birds are singing and we just want to rip our clothes off and dance naked in the square. So that's the name of the book. But I want to share something with you, one of the poems out here, because I'm not making any accusations or anything, but judging from some of you people, you're going to be able to relate to this, so bear with me here. This is entitled Midnight Me. You got that? Midnight Me. Don, this applies to you too. All right. In the middle of the night, I awoke with a start. Did not know what was wrong, so I looked all about. Then the realization washed over me. I knew what was wrong. I needed to pee. I stumbled to the bathroom, turned on the light. What I saw standing there gave me a fright. His face was all wrinkled, bags under the eyes. Then I realized it was me. Started to cry. Then I looked closer and I saw a hair growing out of my ear going who knows where. My back was all hunched and I gave a sigh, and that's when I got the cramp in my thigh. I turned out the light, hopped towards the bed. I caught the edge of the door with the side of my head. As I jumped to the mattress, I twisted my knee, and that's when I realized I forgot to pee. Folks, I appreciate y'all coming out. I hope you had fun.